Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Mavs Party. It's nice. It's nice to do this after a win. It's also nice to actually do this in my own office because my wife is still downstairs with the little one. I'm Kirk Henderson. Welcome to the show here at Pod Maverick. This is the show that I attempt to do after most games, but as you guys can see lately, I've been kind of garbage at that. So here we are. It's nice to get a win. I didn't want to do last night's show. I probably should have, but I was tired. It's a back-to-back. Had long work meetings today. I also didn't want to say anything really, really stupid. I said enough stuff that was really stupid on the show that I do with Josh, and I didn't want to do that with you guys here, which there have been plenty of times over the last several years where I've gotten into trouble. So, for those of you who might be interested in this show, there's a link that's pinned in the comment section here for those of you who are watching live on YouTube, where you can join and come up on the show here with me. You don't have to show your picture, but if you're on your computer or you're on your phone, it's remarkably easy to join. We used to do these on a variety of services that kept getting bought out and replaced. And then when it was going to get shut down, I found out about a month in advance and moved over here. So we're about 11 games into the season. I think I've done 6 or 7 of these. I hope to do more of them as my life gets a little more back on schedule here. But once again, the post here is in the StreamYard app. It's pretty fun. If you guys want to come talk with me, tell me anything you think about the game, anything that you're at all interested in beyond the Mavericks season, we can kind of do whatever you guys are feeling like. It doesn't have to be about this game. It can be about the last several weeks of basketball. We're 9-3. The Dallas Mavericks winning 9 games out of 12 is pretty amazing. Otherwise, I might just sit up here and talk about my Kansas City Chiefs instead of the Dallas Mavericks. That's not really something you guys would be interested in, of course. Also, if you want to post questions down there in the chat, I will feel free to go ahead and respond to those instead of people coming up here in the chat. Jeremy notes it's pretty irresponsible to have a child when we need to talk about the Mavericks. Jeremy, it's really funny you say that because when we found out that my wife was pregnant, I did the math and was like, oh no, this is going to happen. The birth of the child is going to happen within the first week of Mavs games. And I love doing this Mavs stuff. So it's funny that you say that. My man, TKG TV, you should click on his link there for those of you in the show. He does his own pregame show. He also does postgame shows, does all kinds of work. Mr. Garcia, we thank you for your work and for your thoughts. Who would have thought that THJ would have been untouchable in trades? I mean, the Tim Hardaway of it all is so bizarre because I loved him irrationally. He seems like the kind of guy I would hate, but I love him. I have a shirt that says Doncic Hardaway 2024 that I've had since 2020. The fact that the shirt still works and Tim hasn't been traded is pretty amazing. He's going to hit a cold streak. He has hit cold, but he's too important to what the Mavericks do right now. He helps keep things going. I'm really pleased he's on the team. I'm really pleased he's working out. The Mavericks have a deep bench this year, and I'm really, really delighted about that. All right, so we have our first request to come up and hang out here. So we have Simon. Simon, welcome back. What's going on, my guy?
Kirk, what's up, man? Thanks for having me, and congratulations on your new edition.
Thank you. This child has been much more agreeable to a normal schedule than my first child, so this has been a little more seamless. Is a bit ballsy, but it's been a functional. So far, we've been able to make things work, and I haven't had to throw off too much of my Mavs hobby.
That's good to know, man. All right, so I mean, I'm glad I was able to jump on tonight. I mean, it's convenient for me being on the East Coast. Watch the game on the Monumental Sports Network, the Wizards broadcast. I've been trying to get on for a while now. Either you haven't been able to, or it's just
I just haven't done them.
Yeah, I know you haven't. But even the times you have, I fall asleep before I can chime in. Anyway, so usually like when I come on, it's every couple of games or so. So I kind of want to talk more big picture stuff than just the game tonight.
Perfect.
Let's talk about Luke. Let's talk about Luke a little bit. One thing I've kind of noticed, like I'll put out my hot take and then I'll delve into it a little bit. I don't think he's played that well this year for the most part. He's had a couple of incandescent games, like against Brooklyn and against the Clippers, that have sort of elevated his overall stats.
Yeah.
But, like if you look at after the first 3 games, he had a stretch of 5 games in a row, I think against Chicago, Charlotte, Orlando, Toronto, and I'm not remembering the other. Denver, when he had 9 turnovers. Where he just kind of looked out of it. And if you compare like the first 9 or 10 or 11 games or whatever it is this year to last year, for example, right? The first 9 games of last year, he averaged 36 points a game, shooting under 30% from 3.
Yeah, he was just marching to the line, if I remember correctly.
Marching to the line, but marching to the rim. He was like attacking the rim with abandon. I don't really recall, like it seems watching him this year, when he goes to the rim, he's always like looks like he's worried if he's going to get his shot blocked, or when he posts up instead of just kind of turning into a natural fadeaway, he's foul baiting, and then when he doesn't get a call, he's looking at the referees like where's the call? Now the fact that his percentage is way up from 3 this year, I think he's shooting over 40%. That's kind of buoyed his overall numbers. And if he can continue to shoot like that, then it's sort of a moot point on whether he gets to the rim or not. But in my opinion, the best version of Luka is the version of Luka that we saw beginning of last year and beginning of 1920, where he's just getting to the rim at will. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's an injury. I don't know if the fact that the Mavs are playing at such a faster pace this year, right? I think they were 26 last year in pace. This year, last time I checked, they were around 5th, right? So they're getting up and down the court a lot more. I don't know I don't know if maybe that's sapping his energy in the half court and his ability to attack the rim. But to me, it seems like he doesn't oftentimes look interested in attacking the rim hard, and I think that's what's leading to a lot of his turnovers, because another big improvement he made in his game last year, the 3 years before, he averaged about 4.5 turnovers a game. Last year, that was around 3.5. So that's a pretty precipitous.
His turnovers this year, like we have a pretty small sample size. Like you can go through and look at every game. Some of his turnovers this year are of the unbelievably fucking stupid category. Like there's one yesterday where he's dribbling up the left side of the floor, left hand, and he doesn't sense the defender behind him who just comes and takes it from him. Then there's the one I bitched about last night where he passed to Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So I'm not I think I like this theory, but I want to say that over time, they're using Luka the way that I have actually begged them to, which is he's trying to get people involved in the first quarter, but he's only playing 8 minutes. He's not playing the full 12. Yeah. And then in the fourth quarter, he takes over if they need him. Have they needed him that much lately? What do you think?
Well, I mean, they really didn't need him tonight.
Right.
I mean, they could have used him last night in any quarter, and they didn't really get anything. They didn't need him in the previous game in the fourth quarter, really. But as far as the turnovers go, I mean, I know there's like a running.
I think he cleans it up. Is my point. Like he's too good at this.
I hope so. I mean, I hope so, and I think he will too. The question is when, because the fact of the matter is like I think as Mavericks fans and as Luka fans, like what we're all rooting for this guy to be is like the MVP and best player in the league, right? And I think you alluded to this on Twitter, is like if you're going to be an MVP, you just can't have games like he did last night. It just doesn't happen. Yeah, right. Which is like we're doing is we're holding him to the standard of like what he's shown the ability to be over and over again.
Jeremy throws this stat out down below. He says his turnover rate is also up because they're averaging 6 more possessions a game. So I don't know if you were watching through the Monumental Sport Network tonight. One of the things that the Mavericks broadcast noted is that in terms of pace of play, they have made the largest percentage leap of any other team in the league by a wide margin.
But turnover percentage is calculated based on possessions, right? So
sure.
And I think part of that, I think also that goes back to the fact that because he's not attacking the rim with the same abandon, like when he gets, like, let's say when he gets doubled at half court or when they even show a trap, he's oftentimes like trying to thread the needle instead of like working to create a better angle.
Like turning and getting downhill kind of thing.
Turning and getting downhill. But, he'll pick up the ball 28 feet from the basket, hold it over his head, and then try to, like, from a stationary position, try to nutmeg somebody and throw it off the guy's leg.
I've seen that too, and I can't help but think that's a choice because the season's so damn long. Like, we've seen Luka, when he decides he's going to do something, he just does it. And so I can't help but wonder, compared with some of his comments that he made last night, and kind of the stylistic choices in play, because the fact that they're doing, I mean, I just got to be honest with you, man. I never thought that they'd get Luka to change his rotations, let alone how he played in the first quarter. Because it's like, how do you tell?
Do you mean his rotations in terms of like his minutes? Like,
yeah,
in terms
like,
of like, okay,
yes, because I mean, I'm pretty sure he set that pattern. Like, hey, I like to play the whole first quarter, get the feel for things, yada yada yada.
Yeah. I mean, you would know better than me.
No, I honestly don't. It's just, it's a guess where it's like they have catered to Luka so thoroughly that making changes is probably like, going to talk to your wife after she's already pissed off at you. It's like, what are you going to do? Do you really want to poke the bear kind of thing? And the fact that they've gotten where they've gotten with him, I can't help but believe, I don't know this, but I think some of this is sort of stylistic because Luka is going to get double teams thrown at him. And Josh and I just talked about this on our podcast where I think that they're trying to sort of see what different you throw the ball to Grant. If Grant's setting the screen up high, you get the ball to Grant to see what Grant does versus last year where it's just Reggie or somebody else where you kind of know the only options are Reggie's going to shoot the ball or Dwight Powell's going to – do you know what I mean? Like there's not – so I still feel like this early in the year there's a lot of experimentation going on.
Sure.
And so that if you want to be more – if you want to be kind of, the fact that they're 9-3 is the other part of this, where it's the argument has to be made that like if they're screwing around, like and seeing what works while still winning is kind of amazing.
No, I agree. I mean, from a holistic standpoint, from the Mavericks, I mean, being 9-3, and the best thing I can say about them this year is they're winning every game that they're supposed to win, right? Whereas last year, especially early in the season, there was like, even in the first like 9 games, there was 3 games like, and honestly, like to go back to my point earlier, the 2 game stretch that stands out in my mind is they blew that game early against Oklahoma City where they lost in overtime. And then I think they played a back-to-back against Orlando the next night. And in that particular game, Luka was attacking the rim like a freaking demon. I mean, every single possession, it was just like he is not going to be denied going to the rim. And that, I mean, except for maybe the first game against San Antonio, I mean, he showed a little bit of that. And then the other big games he's had this year is when he's just gotten hot from three. And now, if he can maintain even close to the rate that he's been shooting from three this year, then obviously that helps everything. And I do have to say, I think his usage rate, while still really high, is precipitously down. I think, because he's usually around 37, 38%. I think he's down to like 34 this year, which doesn't seem like that much of a drop off, but I think that's
I think it is.
It is. And they're integrating. I think that shows that they're integrating him more with Kyrie. And I gotta say, I know Kyrie didn't play tonight, and you said this, he hasn't shot the ball well yet, obviously, except for the last game that he played against New Orleans or 2 games ago. But I love the way that Kyrie plays with this team and in this offense. Now, the only question is when does he get unhappy? But I don't want to.
Dude, if you're 9-3, what are you unhappy about?
Well, last year, the last 20 games that he played with Kevin Durant, they were 18-2, and he was he was still. I don't want to be a wet blanket on this.
No, I get it. It has to. You got it. It exists in the back of your mind, and so part of the one thing about being a fan is like cognitive dissonance about a whole bunch of shit. So you just kind of got to deal with it. But I'm really liking how this team is playing, and one of the things I keep thinking about when I overthink this team is there's a whole bunch of stuff they still haven't touched on. The Kyrie and Luka kind of 2-man game just doesn't exist. So
no. And one more thing before, and I'll let somebody else get on. I don't want to take the whole time, but another thing. Ever since game 1, I haven't really seen a lot of Luka Lively pick and roll action or chemistry. I've seen a lot more of it with Kyrie and Lively, which is just something that I don't know. It's just,
I think if you see a Kyrie Lively pick and roll downhill, the defense freaks the fuck out because he tends to throw when Luka's even in the neighborhood, the ball tends to go up to Lively. So and also you don't want to overdo it to the point to where it gets scouted.
No, but but if it's something that works, you spam it until the defense adjusts. But again. 9-3. There's not a lot to complain about there, especially with a lot of the way the close games went last year. You take the wins, you can get them. Every freaking win matters in this in this conference. And at 9-3, I think that's better than a lot of us could have hoped for to this point in the season. But it's just interesting monitoring these trends with Luka because we've seen different versions of him over the years, and still obviously very effective where, one version of him is the one who goes downhill. Then you have the mid-range version of him that he showed in other seasons. But in my opinion, best version of him is the one that's getting to the rim with abandon. Haven't seen that yet this year, in my opinion. And I think, the B-ball reference numbers will attribute to that, but that's something that I'm kind of like watching as these games are unfolding. But thanks for having me on, Kirk.
Sure,
it's always a pleasure.
Talk soon, Simon. Have a good one.
All right, man. See you, man.
All right, coming up next is my man Matthew. Matthew, how are we doing, buddy?
Good. How are you doing, Kirk?
I'm pretty good. It's early. It's 10:10. When these shows, when we do these West Coast road trips and all of a sudden it's 1:15 and I feel like I'm dying, that's when these get hard. This is nice.
Well, personally, I live on the East Coast, so, this is rather nice for me. But to be honest, it's a little cliche, but first time, long time. So it's kind of cool to talk to you, not going to lie.
Delighted you joined us. Appreciate it.
Look, all I'm going to say is, sometimes I feel like you and I have some disagreements, but last game, probably Luka's worst game of his career. Like, not going to lie, I was kind of shocked that a lot of people weren't saying it was his worst game of his career. Like, it was straight up. Like, not going to lie.
It's so difficult because there's the notion, I've really found out that there's three kinds of fans. There's the kinds of fans who live and breathe every single game and overanalyze everything, which is what the people who join this group tend to be. Then there are people who look at the big picture and don't even break sweats during games. They just kind of enjoy the process, but don't worry about it too much. And then there's the third fan who really, really only wants positive, happy talk. I am not the positive, happy talk person for most people. And I've kind of started telling people that they get at me on social media where it's like, you need to be a better, it's like, shut the fuck up. I am in this for me and I do this for me. And the fact that you guys want to hang out with me makes me happy, but I would probably scream into the void about this just because I am a lunatic. So it's okay. We're allowed to process sports differently. Jeff Skinwade and I have talked about this a number of times. It's not healthy the way some of us do this, me in particular, but I don't know how to do it any other way, and I'm not going to stop.
Well, hey, look, anyways, no matter what, however you process the games, like tonight was a very good palate cleanser, no matter what. Like compared to last game, like total 180, you feel me?
I was there. I was a little worried because we've seen Josh Bell pointed this out to me. He said Luka always has amazing bounce back games, but we've also seen Luka play down to competition repeatedly. So I didn't know where this one was going to fly, but I think last night was so gross.
As soon as I saw that Kyrie was out, I was like, oh my God, this is a trap game. We're going to lose this game. Like last year's Mavs, 100% would have lost this game easily. But the fact that we blew this game out and that like it was pretty much done in the first quarter is quite nice to see.
And then there was some real like weird wrinkles. Luka Doncic locking up Jordan Poole for a series of possessions tickled me to no end. It was in the third or fourth quarter, but Jordan Poole shot an air ball step back over Luka, which
Poole has been shit this year. Let's
Poole
just
sucks.
be honest. He is the perfect tank commander. I mean, like he could not be better for like Washington. Let's be honest.
This is great because it's Poole is like Tim Hardaway if given the reins. Unfortunately, like what?
Oh my God!
If someone was like, Tim, go have fun, it's great. It's my favorite. But I had a lot of fun watching it. There was that stretch in the third quarter where Derek Lively was just a rim running dunking machine, where it almost felt like a video game. Like that. You're right.
I was a little disappointed J Kidd didn't throw him back in there just to get the double, but I mean, it is what it is.
Well, after Tim went down with the injury and then Luka somehow went back in anyways, I was like so busy screaming at my TV. We're like, what are we doing here? We're up by this isn't the play-in. We don't care about margin of victory. Let's get it over with. So
straight up. But hey, it was good talking to you, Kirk.
Hey, thanks for joining. We'll talk soon.
Hey, definitely.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy and streamlined so I can spend more time on the rest of my business. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right. Coming up next, my man Brian, who might be eating. I can give him a second if he needs it. He's ready to go. All right, Brian. Well, whose jersey you got? You got the City Edition jersey? What do we got? Okay, we got Luka. Looking good, man.
Yeah, they bounced back well enough, and I was like, you know what? I got to go ahead and throw the jersey on because
all I have is Mavs hoodies. Like, I live in hoodies because I won't turn my heat
I saw
up.
that, and I was like, no, I actually want that. That looks comfortable. That is much better for this time of year. I guess I could throw a hoodie under this, but, you know, here's what it is. But, yeah, no, last game was horrid. Luka was god-awful, and everybody just kind of followed his lead. Kyrie and Timmy, they tried to fight the good fight, but to no avail. And this game was a much-needed palate cleanser. Like the last dude said, they were locked in. They were focused from jump. They were ready. They were ready. They were prepared. I got to give Jason Kidd credit for how he's handled most of the season. He's been really, really good. And
Can I make an old person reference? It's old now. Have you ever seen the movie Varsity Blues?
I have not, but I've heard of it.
Okay. It was when I was a freshman in high school. It was like one of the high school movies, a football movie. Starred John Voight and all these TV stars. Well, at one point in the movie, the brand new quarterback takes all of his teammates out to a Texas strip club, and they get drunk, and then they go play the next night, and they simply cannot play. They're all red-faced and they look terrible. And that's what I thought of when it came to the Mavericks last night, where they just weren't really prepared for the game. But in the halftime of the game in the movie, the coach basically tears him up. Basically, I hope you had a good time. Hope it was worth it. And I kind of think Kidd might have used one of his cards last night.
Certain.
You think?
I don't have a doubt about it in my mind. He called them soft just for getting beat up on like a week or so ago. I know for sure he told, because there was nothing that he could really do in that game. He was just as helpless as us because, he was keeping the rotation going as well as he could. He was doing his best not to give up on Luka even when he was terrible because he's a franchise player. You can't you kind of can't bench him. I mean, you could, but
I thought they did. I sort of think they did bench.
Well, yeah, after a while, but I'm talking about early once. Kirk, he had 6 of the turnovers. The first quarter. So the damage had kind of already been done by that point, and then Kyrie got them back into it, and then Luka came back into the game.
And then the defense was so horrid, and everyone had the dropsies. That's where it's the ball has energy, both positive and negative. I really believe that. And do you remember the one where Kyrie lost the ball pulling up to go shoot a jump shot?
Pull-up jump. In fact, I think he was about to lob it because I think Lively was on the court too. I think he was about to lob it to him, and it just slipped out his hands.
The man who many fans would make the argument is the single most skilled basketball player to have ever lived, lost the ball with no one around.
The most sure-handed dude in the league lost the ball. Once I saw that, I was like, "Yeah, this shit is."
All right, hold on for a second. So we have a gentleman in the comments, fan123. He's been coming to a number of shows. Really appreciate you coming in here. Really appreciate the comments. We love Luka. We love Luka. I'm sorry, I'm not going to wipe his ass and tell him he's a good special little boy when he's not.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, he played bad last night. The worst game I've ever seen him play, and I've been watching him since he was 16. It's okay to say the truth. I will crush Kyrie and take the heat of all the little 19-year-old children who watched him when they were 11 years old and they beat the Cavs. I will do that. But so far, nobody else has really deserved the ire, and Luka is the leader of the team. It's okay to beat him up. I'm going to beat everybody else up over the course of the year. Lord knows Josh Green is my least favorite player when he does anything wrong. Poor kid. Anyway, Brian, get back to your point.
No, yeah, to your point, everybody in here loves Luka. I love Luka. He's my favorite player. I have his fucking jersey right now.
You know how bad this team would be if Luka, we were talking about that in Mavs Moneyball Slack today because we're like, oh, what if he decides he wants to leave? And I'm like, so many of the fans are not ready for dark times. We had 1 year of Dennis Smith Jr. Like that's the extent of our hard times.
Man, we had the 1 year at Dennis Smith Jr., but we also had like Dirk right before the latter years, right before the twilight years, where he was just too injured to play all the time. He was still getting out there and suiting up and putting on a show, every other game when he could. But yeah, no, this franchise we haven't seen like 90s Mavericks doldrums. Like I was a kid then. I was born in 94, so I wasn't even around for that. So no, we haven't seen the darkest depths, right?
Yeah, we're fine.
So we're all grateful.
This is a great time. I
I
love being mad at nothing. That's why I encourage these shows, because it's like the same thing was happening on Twitter where people were getting mad at me, where it's like, well, you're not being supportive enough. And I'm like, supportive? This man doesn't know my name. He doesn't care who I am.
He's never going to see any of the words that I say.
Ever.
Man. I could say he played like shit when he plays like shit.
Yeah, it's fine.
Because I'm going to say, because I'm going to blow the fuck. I'm going to have one of those party favors shooting out my ass when he has a good game.
I do believe Jason Kidd reads every mean thing we say about him, because that man is an internet lurker.
Yeah, he's proven it. Kid's proven it. Jeff can't wait his media, so it's not really like the different. But I know he
sees it too. They all do. Yeah, that's fine.
But Kid for sure, he confirms it in his press conferences, and I hope he sees it when I say nice things about his coaching, this year.
Pretty darn good.
Yeah, he's been really good this season. I never thought I would say that coming off of last year, and yeah, no, he's been good. In fact, we don't even have to talk about last game. We just won. We just had a really convincing win. I mean, against a bad team, but you did what you're supposed to do. When you have a shit game, you bounce back and you dominate a bad team, and that's what we did. So I'm excited for that. Josh, I am worried about, but he was still shooting with confidence. The shots just weren't going down. So I'm like, you know what? As long as he's not being super gun shy and jumpy, then I'll live with him just missing threes, because he's a good shooter. I know it's going to come around eventually. Tim was electric, man. Like, I was so hard on Tim last year. I was so horribly hard on Tim last year. Tim and Dwight. And they've both been fucking spectacular this season, man. Like, Tim has legitimately been our third best player. I never thought I'd see the day. I never thought I'd admit that and be okay with it. But I actually kind of am. I think this Tim 6 Man of the Year push is going somewhere. I'd like for him to win the award. He's been great for us, right? And I'm at the point now where I'm like, we were talking all this, Tim, we're up in the value at the deadline. We're going to move him. We're going to look to upgrade at the wing. If we're upgrading at the wing, I don't think Tim's who's getting moved.
Nope.
We're going to be looking at moving Josh. We're going to be looking at moving Jaden. We're going to be looking at moving like the backup bigs that we have for salary. Like those Seth, and he had a good game too, by the way.
Great game. His first actual useful, hey, that's Seth Curry game.
Yeah, I was like, man, because I did not recognize the dude in the previous minutes that he got in a couple other games. And he came out and he hit some shots right away. And he had that shot in the corner off of the 2-man game, dribble handoff with Grant, where he sunk into the corner, hit that shot right overhand. I was like, that's the Seth I remember. So that was cool to see. But like guys like him, those are the guys that are going to be getting packaged in these trades if we trade for anything at all.
Like, I don't want one. I don't want one. I was teasing my man Dalton yesterday because he posted something about Zach LaVine, and I'm like, the vibes are good. I don't want to trade. I just like, let's
not right now.
I want to dance with the people who brought me. Even Josh.
Yeah, see, I agree. I think that we're starting to see people, especially tonight, like after this game, where everybody bounces back, everybody looks good, and he's the only one that struggles. Where there are people like, you know what, I think I'm okay throwing him in the trades now. And I agree, but let's wait. I'm glad that Nico actually addressed this for some reason in like a mid-game interview where he said that he's not really going to look to evaluate the roster and see who needs to go until not who needs to go, but where they can make improvements along the margins on this team as far as like size, rebounding, length on the wing, things like that, until like 20 games in. And I think that's smart because we need to figure out what we have with this team. And we're figuring out that this team's pretty good and the rest of the West is not as tough as we thought it was going to be.
It's at least weird. Like nothing's really shook out,
Yeah. There are a bunch of things, new elements being added and things clashing together. Clippers haven't melded yet. The Suns haven't melded yet because they can't get all their guys on the court. Denver's the only team that really looks like any kind of unbeatable. Golden State is good, but they're way too small and inconsistent. Like,
did you see that boy, that rookie? I called him a boy because he looks like he looked like a Cabbage Patch doll kid. The rookie that they drafted that scored like 20 points. He had like a twisting, turning bank shot last night. This is making me mad.
Which team? I'll know
The
you're
Warriors.
Talking about. Oh, Paz, Brandon Podziemski. No, I love that dude, man. He's so cool.
He does. He looks like a Cabbage Patch kid. And the shot he hit to end one of the quarters over the Wolves was one of the most insane things I will see
from
in the
like
NBA.
almost the corner, right on the wing, and he
It looked like
from that weird angle.
It's not only like a weird angle, like that's a shot you take in NBA Live, or I'm sorry, NBA 2K.
Right.
Like just something completely broken where it's like, oh sure, I'm gonna throw this up.
No, that dude's good. He's basically their Dante replacement because they needed somebody after Dante DiVincenzo left in free agency, which they figured he was gonna do. So I like him. I like a lot of their young guys. I just don't think they're being developed.
No.
Really, or getting the playing time really to be able to develop.
Yeah.
It's because they're, doing the holdovers from the past regime thing. And just like we had to clean out our closet to make room for an entirely new roster rotation, Golden State is eventually going to have to do that, although they've got, more championships. That gives them more cachet to have more time to really be able to do all of this with. I just realized Bob Myers is gone. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, so he's not there. So
the West, you're right, though. The West is a weird, wide, like mostly open place.
Yeah, there is. I can work with weird because as long as we're doing what we need to do and beating the shit out of bad teams, and for the most part, we have been, then I can live with everything else. I think that the defense, the numbers are going to say that the defense is terrible. The defense hasn't been great, but over the last, 4 or 5 games, when it's needed to be, it's been really, really good. In the clutch, in the fourth quarter, it's been awesome. And that starts with Luka doing a better job of giving effort, being present, moving his feet, being solid and strong, like in one-on-one defense, and being active in team defense. And as long as he's doing that, everybody else is buying in and doing it. And I've seen them like absolutely shut teams' water off in the fourth quarter. So I know that they can do it, and I think they can do it against good teams too.
You're the best for joining. You got anything else for us tonight?
No, man. Team's good. We're 9-3. Let's go get that number 1 seed, and I'll be happy with that.
Real happy. All right, man. Talk soon.
Yes, sir. Peace.
All right. We're going to come next to my man Christian, who is down there hanging out, and then we're going to go to Jason. Actually, no, we're going to go to Christian first because Christian works for me, and Jason and his giant plant aren't there quite yet. Christian, what's up, man? Hit that unmute button.
Hey, Kirk. How's it going, man?
Welcome to the show. Christian is one of the various writers at MavsMoneyball.com, though I'm going to berate you publicly. You have not written in a while. So what's going on? Tell me what you're thinking. You should write that Tim Hardaway piece you thought about, though.
Yeah, man. Like, in his 12 years in the league, he shot above 42% from the field 4 times. Like, listen, I know.
That's really funny to say out loud. Like, I know you're right, but it's like, Christ, 12 years and the man can't hit the broadside of a barn. But he shoots so many threes is the thing, yeah.
Exactly. Like, the thing is, like, he shoots well above league average, like, pretty much almost every other year, if not every year. So it's like you can't really be too much in his ass. But, like Brian was saying earlier, I was pretty hard on him last year too because his shot selection was just atrocious. Like I'd be just looking at like, bro, like someone needs to pull the reins in, you know. But so far this season, man, like Brian was saying, he's literally probably the 3rd best player. And there have been times when Kyrie has kind of been iffy or Luka's been iffy, and he's been there. He stepped up. Like he's just been a joy to see, man. Like I was saying earlier, I think it was in the group chat that last year, if Josh Green had a bad game on both sides of the court, you could notice it, right? Like the Mavs would actually kind of struggle a little bit. So far this season, I know it's only 11 games in, but he's been pretty bad on both sides. And you noticed like the supplement with Derek Lively, like it plays like this at 19. I can't wait to see what he gets like with a couple more off seasons in the man. He's just a breath of fresh air, considering it's just been a sore spot for years. Like the fact that they took a 19-year-old to just come in and just play his game and execute and do all the little, that says a lot. The way this team is going right now, man, I don't think anyone could have predicted this type of start. And if you did, I would have called you some names.
Well, and our friend Rashad Miller, who does Rashad write for? He's going to yell at me. Dallas Weekly. He actually asked Derek Lively a question tonight, and the answer from Lively's point of view was, he said, "I know my job is very significant, so I know I got to be able to play with 100% effort, and more than that, every time I step on the floor." And you're right about the kind of perspective, the 19 years old of it all, where he's decided he's going, he's start small and get bigger. That should be Lively's goal. We joke about the threes and the pregame and stuff like that, but if Lively is able to do these little things, I don't know, the Mavericks are going to be much, as fan in the chat said, I predicted a top 4 seed. Like, there's an element of that's just really, it's just nice. It's nice to be able to like project up that high, which I a little high for me. I kind of think I'd be happy with missing the play-in compared to last year's, but it's just this team is really fucking good right now. And not only that, they're not, there's elements, you're not old enough for this. And you also have grown up a Chicago Bulls fan before you lived in the Dallas area.
Unfortunately.
But I watched a lot of Mavericks basketball in the 2000s where they were so good early that there was not another gear that they could get to. And these Mavericks, in my humble opinion, have not scratched the surface of stuff that they could do. Like, they're kind of killing people with specific elements and waiting to see if teams will stop them, but they're not running a lot of like Kyrie Luka action. They're not running Grant Williams as kind of the role man ever, letting him do a lot. They're kind of just running these basic screen and roll sets and destroying people most nights. So I still think there's layers they can get to once teams figure out how to stop parts of their offense.
I agree wholeheartedly, man. And like, there's so many caveats to why they've been good this season, at least 12 games in, 11 games in. And we've got to talk about Derrick Jones Jr., man. Like, during the summer, we were talking about it, and we always said the Mavs need a wing that can put pressure on the rim, attack the closeout, just do all the little things that they've kind of been lacking in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
And him playing on the vet minimum, doing what he's doing, man. Listen, I knew he could do it, playing with 2 talented guards like Kyrie and Luka, because he did not have that in Chicago at all. But like, this is all we've been ever asking for anybody. Just run the floor, make yourself available. And that's all he's been doing. And listen, man, it's a joy to see, especially knowing that I know he has that talent. Like last year, it was a 32 game stretch where he shot above 40% from 3 in the corners. And they just refused to give him the goddamn ball.
Well, last year with the Bulls, he played 64 games and he shot 83 pointers. He hit 27 of them. Okay. So that's roughly 34%, which is pretty functional for a guy with that kind of athleticism. You'd like to be a tick higher, but that's like the difference between 1 or 2 makes over the course of the year. Right now with the Mavericks, this guy is shooting 18 of 51, which is a significantly higher statistical percentage. Let me see here. 18 divided by 51. You think I'd be able? Well, I guess it's only 35. But before tonight, he was shooting 36%, and he shot that many threes already in 11 or in 12 games.
Exactly.
That's the difference. Like, the volume for him, the bites at the apple, as I like to think about it, is really going to pay off over the course of the year, because he's getting, tell me if you think this, he's getting more confident.
Oh, I definitely see that. Like, last year, there were so many times where he would have an open lane at the rim, and he would just either settle for a really bad pull-up or just kick out of it and pass to somebody else.
Yeah.
This year, he's taking it with confidence. He's going to the free throw line. Whether he makes it or not, whether he passes out of it when he gets to the rim, he's doing what he needs to do for himself and for everybody else around him. And like I said, that's really all they've really needed. Just play your role and do it well. And that's what he's been doing, man. Like, when I see him, he just plays different. I get it. He's playing with 2 great guys and some really good role players around him. But situation means everything.
Everything,
man.
No, I'm really looking forward to him. Now, I'm not going to ask you this because I don't want to hurt your feelings. But how good would Alex Caruso be on this Mavericks team? Just I want to leave you with that parting thought. Don't want it to hurt your feelings as a Bulls fan. Alex, I love Alex Caruso. Anything else you want to get off before I move on to the next person?
Yes, sir. I got a couple things. So as far as the Alex Caruso part, if there is some way the shoe salesman could get Alex Caruso, listen, man, we're talking Larry O'Brien finalist. Like, I think he has that type of reach to where he could just impact them on both sides of the court. I mean, he could play 1 through 4. I don't want him playing the 4, but against smaller size like 6'8", 6'9" guys, 6'10", he does really well. So he's like what, 6'5", like all of what, 220 maybe. Like if he could get to the Mavs some way somehow, like you were joking earlier, it's gonna be the Bulls South, but Caruso and Drummond, that's what I want for the Mavs. If there's some way they can get it done, man, listen.
I'm like religiously opposed to Drummond simply because of our friend Kenny who loves Drummond, and I can't have him win. Hope Kenny, if you're listening, love you. But no, it's the guy that, like, a backup big that can play 12 minutes a game and grab like 11 boards in those 12 minutes. I know what you mean. So
he's the best per 36 rebounder in the NBA history. I'm making that up, but I was looking earlier. Like last year, he averaged 18 rebounds and like, bro, like shit is crazy. But other thing I want to talk to you about, what do you think about the backup guard spot? Like, are you solidified with Seth Curry, Kyrie being there, switching off for Luka when he's not in the game? But how do you think that's going to look?
I love Dante. Dante Exum has been more than I could have imagined, and I think he's going to show more with every game. I really do. He's big, he's strong, and he's like herky-jerky weird, and I think he buys you those 12 minutes a game that you're looking for.
There was this one, exactly, I agree with that, especially with the play he's played this season. I think there was one play that you showed on the pile with Josh.
Yeah.
Like why he was a lottery pick. Like his athleticism, man, even after all the surgeries, it's still there. I mean, it's not as dynamic, but it's there. Like that's all you need from the guy.
It's not a fair comp because this guy is just so incredible in his role. But like he gives me these Sean Livingston-y vibes that I can't shake.
Really?
Yeah. Like big, tall guards. I mean, Livingston, I don't know if you're probably too young for this, but
I remember Sean Livingston. He's 6'7", played for the
before his leg nearly needed to be cut off. He was so freaking dynamic. And obviously Dante wasn't that dynamic, but there's like a patience and a strength to the games that Livingston developed later that I really admire. And I think about that when I see Exum. That's all.
I got one more thing for you before I get out of here.
Sure.
In my opinion, I think two probably the biggest needs, whether it become trade deadline or after December 15th, is backup bigs for Lively. Depends on who you can get. Like I want Drummond, but you don't want him here.
Right. It cannot be Maxey.
Oh no, it cannot be. Cannot be Maxey. Man, I feel really bad for that guy, man. I really do. Like he can't catch a break. But if there is, I know it's still early, but if there was a wing out there and a backup big that you could get without giving up too much, who do you think is out there that the Mavs could possibly get?
I am so bad at this that I never even try. I love because it's like the valuation thing, where you were like, man, these Mavs fans are really like they were suggesting bad trades for Pat Will, and I'm like, well, I don't want Pat Will because you guys got to pay him an insane amount of money. He's like, so I don't. There's like the talent elements, and then there's the actual fit, and that's why I said earlier that I don't really want to trade anybody right now. I am so happy with this group that I would rather ride it and see how long you can make it work.
No, I agree. Especially like you don't want to mix up the chemistry they've already started to build.
Yeah.
And somebody commented in the comments not too long ago talking about how much Luka's been smiling this year. And it's really been off of the bench. Like, this might be one of the best benches, if not the best that he's had in Dallas.
I think so. Maybe 1920 compares to it, but this is definitely a lot of fun so far.
It's going to be fun, man. As long as Jason Kidd doesn't turn into a pumpkin, we should be fine.
I mean, he might already be a pumpkin. We wouldn't know. That's okay. He was wearing – did you see the hat he was wearing in pregame? He was wearing a – Captain Marvel Dallas Mavericks hat that said higher, farther, faster on it. Like that man's collection of hats needs its own like researcher. Like we need some history. I need to understand, where does that hat get made? I could be completely making this up, but my wife and I paused because I was watching on a stream and I'm like, that's what that says. And she said, oh yeah, that's what it says.
There's a lot of small hat makers in the DFW.
Sure.
I'm sure he got it from somebody.
It's just such a weird cross ref, like Captain Marvel.
Right? he's a Marvel.
All right, man. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you come back.
Thanks, man. I'll get the writing soon.
Mm-hmm. All right. Coming up next is a man whose mustache looks very Travis Kelce-ish. Jason Gallagher. What's going on, man?
What up, Kirk? How are you?
I am okay. Is what did I fall through a time warp? How's the mustache going? Who made this choice?
So I'm going to England on Saturday.
So they're okay.
I'm getting all the America out.
Okay.
I'm going to shave before, but I want to be the most American man possible.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to join because I wanted to talk one thing out with you. It's a little not totally Mavs related, but it is. And it has to do with this. Last night, I was in several texting conversations with folks about already about first team All NBA at the guard spot.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
One person was talking about how Halliburton is going to be first team All NBA. Another person was talking about Anthony Edwards is going to be first team All NBA, possibly MVP. Okay. We in Mavs land, we on Mavs Twitter, we have to dispel any sense that Luka Doncic is not a top 2-point guard in the NBA. And the only acceptable other answer is Stephen Curry.
Okay. He's not really a point guard. Exactly.
Yeah. So it is something that I've been thinking about a lot. I think that this year, if my fortune telling skills are decent, I really do think that the guard spot, first team All NBA. Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. The guard spot, first team All NBA is going to be the most toxic conversation.
Well, what if I told you that there are no positional markers on first team, second team, or third team anymore? It is simply the best 15 players.
Well, that's fine. But I still think people are going to talk about it this way.
You do? Okay.
I do. I mean, literally, I was talking with people that were pretty well versed in the NBA.
Sure. I mean, I just throw that out there because they did this thing to make Joel Embiid feel better about the fact that he's an L7 weenie and is never going to be the best player in the league. He's not better than Jokic. So we have to create something for him to make him feel like he's an all NBA first teamer. I'm sorry, when Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain played, they had to be 1 and 2. That's the way this works. Sorry, but no, we have to. Then everybody gets a trophy America that we live in now. I'm just kidding. But
I think it's representative of today's NBA.
It is where it's we have to make guys feel good. So it's like I think in that first All NBA first team, you automatically have Jokic, Embiid, Giannis.
I think you automatically have Luka.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a part of it. Okay. When Luka doesn't have a great game, it's very loud. It's very fucking loud. And it's not just because I follow a lot of Mavs people. People are loud about it. And when an Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is the other? Tyrese Halliburton. These are all guys that I really, really like and that I think all have the potential to be top 6, 7 players in the NBA. Top 5. Anthony Edwards is amazing. Mm-hmm. But when these guys have great games, the immediate thought is, why aren't they in the MVP conversation? And my immediate answer is because there are better players than them in the NBA. That's why. And I'm sorry, but Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards had 13 or 14 points tonight. I can't remember. No one's talking about that. No one cares because there's not really an expectation on him right now.
I agree with that.
Not to the degree of Luka. And so my point just comes around to this. Luka can't afford to Luka missed the playoffs once and people talked about it like it was the sky was falling.
Oh, Ant had a horrible game. Goodness.
Yeah. And we recently had a podcast with it was kind of a group, like a very smart group of basketball thinkers talking about players that could potentially be top 20 players of all time. And Luka was named in with the likes of Shea and Anthony Edwards. But I just think like these guys have missed the playoffs a lot.
Luka is a better player than both of those guys. And I'm sorry, like he is not the fresh new chick on the block, but that's the only difference. Like Luka has done this for years. I keep saying this and it makes people mad, but Luka could be Thanos snapped out of existence right now. And he would be he would be a NBA he would be a Naismith basketball Hall of Fame lock. That is not the case with Edwards and Shea Gilgeous, Alexander, etc.
Right. And so the point of me coming on wasn't necessarily to shit talk them, but it's more to be like, I think we are going to have to continue to be very vocal about just how good Luka is and not let certain national TV or national media people named Matt Moore define Luka's career by the fact that he complains sometimes. And yes, it is a downer. Yes, it's a lot. But guess what would be worse if he didn't make the playoffs 3 fucking straight years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is way, way worse than complaining sometimes.
Sure, I agree with you because if like it's that line from The Social Network where the Mark Zuckerberg character gets pissed off and he's like, if you would have invented Facebook, then you would have fucking invented Facebook or whatever it was. Like if these guys were that good, then they would have made the playoffs.
Yeah, their teams would be that good. I don't know. I have that feeling about a lot of players in the league where, like LaMelo is a great example. Super fun guy, but like, are they even relevant? And will they ever be relevant? And like the idea. So I say all that to say, I do believe that the discourse, the Kendrick Perkins of the world, a bunch of people, when this conversation starts to begin, they're going to be like, well, who are the best guards in the NBA? And if Luka isn't one of the first 2 names out of your mouth, you are not a serious basketball person. So and that is a fucking fact. No matter how fun Shea, no matter how fun Ant, no matter how fun Halliburton, I love all those guys. Halliburton is a legitimate, awesome guy.
There's a reason the Mavericks wanted to pair him with Luka.
Yeah. Oh, he's amazing.
Right.
Yeah. But I have had this.
It's a great thought. It's a great thought experiment because it's never too early, unfortunately, in the takes land to get these sort of things out there because narratives tend to stick more than facts. And it's worth at least considering. Now, here's my kind of counterpoint to the process.
Let's hear it.
Luka had a 60-point, 20 rebound, 10 assist, triple-double, and then proceeded to oversee one of the worst runs of basketball the remainder of the year.
Yeah.
Like awful. He played hard, but the Mavericks were awful.
Yeah.
He was still all NBA first team.
Right.
In spite of all that.
Yeah.
I think this year let's say they finish 6th. Yeah. And the Wolves finish 5th. Yeah. Are you really going to tell me? Not you. I think when it's a voter, when they're alone with their vote, will they sit there and say, is this player really better? Is this player really more deserving? Did this player really have a better season? And as we saw last year, the answer was no, and that was when they had plenty of ammo. This year, I don't think they'll have that ammunition. I really don't.
Everyone I've ever spoken to in private that I respect as a basketball mind believes that, and this is not really meant to be a shot at anything other than the fact that Luka bails out any team efficiencies a lot during a given season. And so you don't see the deficiencies because he makes players like you just discussed, Derek Jones Jr., a player that I really like. Mm-hmm. And I'm so pleasantly surprised by his contribution this year, but he is a journeyman. He's been on a lot of teams, and
Anthony Edwards isn't making him better.
I have never seen that man be half as effective as he is on this team. And a lot of that has to do with what he said. When people said, "Are you happy to be here?" Sorry, my buddy's FaceTiming me. So
do you want to join the show?
No, you don't want to talk to this guy. But he said, I'm happy about Luka Doncic. Basically, is what he mentioned. the idea of Luka Magic, and it's a real thing for some of these players, and that's where it's sort of like I got into a argument at the end of last season with someone pretty well in the know who was polling a bunch of players about who they'd rather play with, Luka or Booker, and it was fairly even. And it's just sort of I really feel like narrative can really drive
100%.
Drive the facts about Luka, and I just think he's closer to Jokic than he is to Anthony Edwards.
Oh, that's absolutely the case. I mean, I'm pretty sure Nikias as a part of your network.
Yeah.
He had that great bit yesterday about how he's been, paying attention to Luka's one-on-one defense, and Luka is the most isolated player in the NBA. And this is before yesterday's just horrendous output. So back out the New Orleans game and back out today's game. Luka is the most isolated player in the NBA. He is also defending those isolations at an elite level, giving up 0.83 points per possession. So there's this weird thing where Luka Doncic is actually really fucking good at stuff when he tries. And I'm not. You look surprised. Did you not know that?
No, I heard. I saw the same thing. I'm not surprised. I'm just like
I'm surprised. I didn't know it was that good. Like I knew he was better.
Well,
But I didn't know he was great.
it's still small sample size, and the one thing that the haters can say is that they haven't played the kind of juggernaut part of your schedule.
Sure.
But
I mean that raises the question.
Legit, but the point I just try to make is that this isn't his first year in the NBA.
No.
And this isn't some new thing. And so I think with Jokic, it's I don't want to say it's similar, but it reminds me of a same kind of discourse where it's like, Jokic really hasn't changed that dramatically from 2 years ago, from last year to this year. He's still the same awesome player. He has help now, and he is maximizing his skill set in a way that is awesome. But when you look at the advanced stats of Jokic over the last 3 years, he's not that different of a player. He's really not.
Right.
But it's funny the way that the discourse comes around on him. And now he's basically untouchable, as he should be. And I am of the opinion, as a person who watches literally every second of Luka Doncic basketball, that he is closer to Jokic, as I said, than he is to Shea Ant. And that's, again, it's not a shot at those guys, but it's like we need to see more than 10 friggin' games from these guys for them before we start to compare them to people who have the chance to be all-time greats.
I like it. I think you're not wrong, man.
Thanks. That's the mustache.
Oh man. Well, so before you go,
yeah,
I don't want you to comment on any of this because any of this stuff will get you in trouble. But the last 36 hours of NBA insanity rivals anything I can think of in my 20 years of the league stuff, because I'm just going to list off the items. We have the Warriors fight. We have whatever in the world is going on with Kelly Oubre and TMZ's ability to find video of pulling it from the dark web. We have the Lakers, the NBA is bizarre and hilarious. And I can't, this is why I'll never leave. It's why I will never stop watching this league.
Yeah, I think that, you can ask me about it. I think some of these things, I don't think Kelly Oubre getting hit by a car is good. A part of me is like,
no, it's wild. This shit doesn't happen in other leagues. That's my point.
I was watching First Take, and someone was like, they got to suspend Draymond 10 games because this is the play-in tournament, and the last thing they want is something like this. And I'm like, are you sure that's the last thing they want?
Exactly what they want.
Let me tell you something. One conversation I got into recently was about how the what a post LeBron, post Steph NBA is going to look like. And I was talking to some friends, and I was saying that the lack of solid NBA rivalries is kind of hurting the game. And we all kind of brainstormed, and everybody concluded that Luka Booker is probably as close as it kind of gets to a legitimate rivalry, not skill wise, but just the fact that they're both shit talkers. They both are competitive, and they both won't really back down. And that's a good thing for the NBA. And so the more that they shove each other, get in each other's faces, like that's a good thing. And it makes me want to see the next 3 years in the playoffs, Luka versus Booker. I would love that. You know what I mean? So the Draymond thing, it's not great, but Kirk, are you going to watch the next Warriors Timberwolves game? Because I am.
I Warriors World posted like a multi-thing thread of how it got this bad. And it's like, oh yes, I am here for that.
Yeah. And like, I just think, I'm not saying we need more of this. I'm just saying that if I was the NBA, I'd approach the Jokic brothers and I'd say how much to get you to storm the court.
Sure thing, man. Sure thing.
That's all I got, brother.
All right. Thanks so much for joining. We'll talk soon. All right.
All right. See you, buddy.
All right. Coming up last, but certainly not least, my man Krishna. What's going on tonight, guy?
Kirk, how are you?
I'm fine. I am reading a tweet shared to me where it was like, I unfollowed everything Mavs Moneyball. And it's like, all right, just like, can everybody relax? It's just the internet. It's just the fucking internet. So what's going on?
I'm good, Kirk. This is kind of the response you wanted, right? I feel like everyone wanted, and obviously I think everyone has kind of said it at this point. Last night was just a disaster on all fronts in terms of just, I think we all have like a level of, we just want to see Luka succeed. And it's frustrating when it's something he has control over, you feel like, and essentially to just self-destruct like that is kind of inexcusable, especially when I felt like we saw a game very similar where, he was stunted and he was being double teamed in Chicago. And it felt like he didn't let that take the Mavericks out of the game. Whereas yesterday it felt like he let it take everyone out of the game. And, I give some credit, it felt like Kyrie was still trying, at least giving effort. But you can't do that. And, there's excuses and this and that, but at some point you can't give excuses. It's just a poor effort. But it was positive that at least they came out today and they blew this Wizards team, which it's a bad team. Like, let's all get that correct. It's a bad team. They're not a good team, but it's very easy to then come back to this game and go, oh, like, why should we try again? Like, we don't have another game till Saturday.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah, and I remember, I'm pretty sure we had, I don't know, I think it was last season, maybe it wasn't, but we went to Orlando. I went from Orlando to Washington, and I'm pretty sure we lost both those games back to back. Yeah. And it was horrible. Like, I hated that road trip. I think it was a 3-game road trip, if I'm remembering correctly, or if it was very similar. It was like we had one home game, and then we had 2 road games in a row. And I remember after losing to the Wizards that day, I was so mad because there was no reason for us to lose both those games. And it's been positive that this team has, after losses, felt like it needs to step its game up, which I think is something we didn't see at all last season, where it felt like the only reason this team would bounce back is if Luka was, at 100%. And the reality is no NBA player is at 100% or, reaching their max in terms of their like output and their scoring output. And we just have a team now. You have guys that are going to step up, guys that are going to give contributions, and that's positive. And it, everyone's going to say, and Jason Gallagher just mentioned it prior, like, oh, you're not in your toughest stretch yet. But I feel like this Mavs team, and we've seen it in the past even, they can go toe-to-toe with the good teams. Like, they can fight good teams just because of how good Luka is. But they just have never seemed to been able to get up against the bad teams for some reason. And they've played down to their level for the past
for some
years.
reason is the Luka, because he's bored. And that, like, the step has been for years him becoming a killer in these games that don't matter, where he does the Michael Jordan sociopath thing where he's like finds a reason to be slighted, and it's like goes to work. And like that, what made last night so disappointing was that was the first game I saw Luka not respond. That was why I was so upset. He's always come back and counterpunched. He just didn't.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're right. And that's what's frustrating about it, is because I even think back, it's not like it was a game where Luka struggled. Luka's had games where he struggled.
Sure.
It was the application of attitude. And that's what's frustrating, right? Like, every player has games where they're just not scoring, right? They're getting double teamed. They're getting frustrated by a defender. Like Herb, like give credit to Herb Jones. He's a very good defender, a very good player.
Yeah.
Clearly he affects Luka a lot. Like I think of it's Herb Jones and Lou Dort are kind of, I think, the best Luka defenders in the league at this point. But you can't let that essentially blow up your whole game. So
Yep.
it'll be interesting to see what happens. But it was a positive game, right? Derek Lively was awesome again tonight. It feels great that a lot of the offseason decisions this summer were things that in the moment I think everyone felt good about, but we were all still concerned about do we actually feel good about them? Like, are they actually good decisions, or are we just, gaslighting ourselves again in a way? And it feels good that, this team is actually being cohesive. It's a cohesive team. Like Kyrie Irving is out and it doesn't feel like, oh my goodness, there's no way this team can win. 3-0 without Kyrie.
That's a great point.
It's just something I saw and I didn't even think about it. And I was like, last year, if we didn't have Kyrie, I think we would have lost all these games easily. I think this game, I'm thinking Chicago, right? He was out, and was it Brooklyn? No, he was playing in Brooklyn. Well, whatever it was, but like easily we would have lost these games. And it's awesome. And yes, I know everyone's kind of mentioned it. Josh has not been good. Like I'm a huge Josh Green fan. Like I defend him, but this is kind of inexcusable. But I also think it's like the team is winning. And if your biggest gripe is that one player is not contributing, and it's not excusable, I'm not saying it's okay that he's not played good, but the fact that the team is still winning, I think, is the more important thing. And some of the stuff I feel like is still fixable in-house. I feel like the rotations are getting better, but they're still not there. It feels like everyone is still kind of.
Oh no, the defense is horrendous. I don't know what to do about that.
It's really, to me, only Grant Williams and Derek Lively, who I think have been more than passable.
Sure, but it's a team thing where it's like, it's just, what do you do?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It feels like no one is reading rotations correctly or staying on their man. It feels like everyone, it feels like all the guys who were here last season kind of have like PTSD from last season, where they're worried about guys blowing by them and getting to the paint instead of just staying on the perimeter and staying on their guys. Like there's a lot of sagging off, and I don't know if that's something that gets fixed over time, but ultimately this team's offense is just so good. Like, J Kidd said at the beginning of the season, like, you're going to have to score 120 to keep up with us. And I mean, that's kind of played true, which is positive, but it'll be interesting to see. It's weird. The scheduling is so weird though. The fact that we don't play till Saturday, and then I think we play a few back-to-backs after that. Very weird scheduling, but you take it all in turns, and it's positive, really, just positives.
Well, I'm really glad you joined me once again. You got anything else?
Not that I can think of. I think it's just interesting. I was going to mention about something about Derek Lively. Oh, you know what it was? I think someone mentioned it too, Brooke Lopez. I actually think Derek Lively, like the best pro comp to Derek Lively, is not just Tyson Chandler. I think he could be like Brooke Lopez if his outside shot actually develops.
I think it's there. I just don't know. It's like do you want the guy taking 4 threes a game? Like that's kind of what it comes down to. I really do think he's not, like, I've seen him shoot. It's kind of it makes me feel bad about myself that I was never able to do anything like that.
I think it's positive that his form at least is not like broken. Like I think oftentimes you see big men shoot and you're like, that is not shooting. That is called chucking the ball into the basket. And that's positive. And I also think it's easy to forget, like Brooke Lopez was not a shooter for such a long time. Like I think he was like 33 when he actually started developing his and
that's where it's like that's just a reminder of how skilled these guys all are, where it's like there was practice sessions where Eric Dampier would beat Dirk Nowitzki in shooting contests. Like that's just, NBA players are so unbelievably skilled. It's just like you get them out front of the bright lights, and can they do it under the pressure and within the scheme? And like that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then I mean, like, you're right. I mean, it's like the best 500 guys, and like maybe not always the best 500 guys, but it's close to the top 500.
500 of the top 600 best basketball players alive,
easily. And so, like, the skill level is always, like, it's always funny. Like you talk about all these guys are going to hit every single shot in an open gym or in a pickup game, but at an NBA pace and an NBA level, it's different. So, but I don't think I'm that worried about it in the sense I need Derek Lively hitting threes, obviously, but I think it's positive that Derek Lively is just contributing now, which is something I think everyone was worrying about. but that he still has room to grow, right? It was the same thing. I remember when Luka got drafted, it was the same thing where everyone was like, oh, is Luka, like, what is his ceiling? Like, does he have a very low ceiling? And it was kind of ridiculous. Like, you just never know with any player what kind of skills they're going to add to or develop. And I think it's positive. JJJ, that JJJ actually wants to play the five.
I like that take. So for anybody listening on the podcast, someone with the handle Mavs Luka Kyrie says that his hope for Derek Lively is Jaren Jackson Jr. that actually wants to play the five.
I think, gosh, and I think part of it is, and you've mentioned it, felt like Derek has been a little bit more passive because some of the calls are going against him. In a way, I think that's concerning, but I also think it says a lot about him, where I think JJJ, like, sometimes he goes all out, but that's what keeps getting him into foul trouble, where it feels like he doesn't read the situations properly in terms of understanding where he is with fouls and like what kind of game is being called. And I think that's what's been so impressive to me about Lively is he's just been really adaptable, and it's something you just take forward, right? Like, it's crazy. The guy's 19, obviously he's turning 20 soon, but like the fact that the guy is still so young and is being relied upon, and you can honestly say that he's not been disappointing. Like, he's not been disappointing, which is, it's a miracle. It's a miracle, Kirk, honestly. Just I'm delighted. I'm having fun. I am. Right. I'm just having fun. Having fun. I didn't think I would say that last year.
Well, and this is why I probably, like, I was a bit of a coward last night. I probably should have recorded, but I didn't. Like, I was so mad that I just didn't want to. This is better. This is good.
I think it was the right choice.
We have our funniest shows though when the Mavericks lose in a really stupid way, because it's just like everybody processing their
opening.
Idiocy. So.
I remember opening game last year. That was horrible.
Which one was that?
Phoenix with Damian Lee. No, God.
That was bad.
But it's very funny to think every single one of those losses was important to the Mavericks getting Derek.
It's true. Ooh. That's a positive way to look at it.
Very hilarious. All right. Take care, Kirk.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
All right. I was expecting this to be a half-hour show. It's been an hour and 15 minutes. So good show, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out. I saw Rain pop in, and then he was exiting out. But Rain, we'll get you next time. This has been Kirk Henderson of Pod Mavericks Mavs Party. Thanks so much for hanging out. We will be back on Friday night. Everybody enjoy the rest of your week and go Mavs.